Welcome to Take Off Your Shoes. My name is Reverend Marie Duquette. I'm an ordained minister in the Lutheran tradition, and I believe that where my story, your story, and God's story meet, there is holy ground. The Gospel of John begins, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people." Gift giving at Christmas time is a Christian tradition that is widely practiced around the world. However, the practice is not something that is exclusive to Christianity. Several other religions mark the end of the year with a similar custom. The Jewish festival of lights of Hanukkah is one. To Christians, the gifts given at Christmas are symbolic of the tributes to the baby Jesus by the three wise magi after Jesus' birth during the story of the Nativity. The Bible's New Testament describes the magi Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar journeying to the location of Jesus' birth by following a star, and upon their arrival presenting him with gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But the tradition of gift giving extended long before the founding of Christianity. The roots are in festivals of the ancient Romans, in particular the festival of Saturnalia, where thanks were given to the bounty provided by the agricultural god Saturn. Something farmers can surely understand, thanking God. The festivities took place from the 17th to the 23rd of December, and they were celebrated with a sacrifice and a public banquet, followed by private gift giving, not so different from what we do now, minus the sacrifice, unless you count all the things people do building up to Christmas that are sacrificial, and there are many. The partying continued in a wild atmosphere where social standings took place and were soon done away with. During the feast, slaves, people who were enslaved, would be considered the equal of their masters, and free speech was embraced. The day that gifts were exchanged was known as Sigillaria and took place on the 19th of December. As gifts of value were in contradiction to the spirit of the season, the Romans exchanged more modest gifts, such as candles, seasonal figurines, and gag gifts, which were designed to amuse or terrify the other guests. Etiquette dictated that the lowlier the gift, the stronger the bond of friendship it was said to represent. So there you go. No need to empty your wallet. Some bosses often gave a gratuity known as a sigillartium to their clients or employees in order to help them purchase their gifts. Thus, we have or had Christmas bonuses back in the day. Unlike many of the cultish festivals held in the Roman Empire, Saturnalia was widely celebrated throughout all the territories of Rome at the end of the calendar year. It was a much-loved festival thanks to its carefree atmosphere, generous gift-giving, and lavish entertainment. Because of that, people were less inclined to give up its popular traditions. This made it a lot harder to deal with when the religious status quo changed in the empire. Conversion of Emperor Constantine to Christianity 312 years after the death of Jesus started the beginning of the end of pagan celebrations in the empire. But early religious leaders couldn't simply ban the popular Saturnalia, as there would be a backlash to that. There's a theory that when they used many of the traits of the festival when establishing Christmas, a rival feast that would take Saturnalia's place, but commemorate a Christian occasion, the birth of Jesus, that would be acceptable. The exchange of gifts was probably one of the traditions carried over from the old to the new. As time passed, the spread of Christianity continued, as trade routes were established and new territories were converted to the religion. This meant that more and more people were introduced to the wonders of the gift-giving celebration that marked the end of the year and everything that it stood for. Enter the Puritans. The Puritans, who were the primary religious officials in this country after the Pilgrims came and discovered that the Indians had discovered it. They came and they said, oh, this is too heathen, having these celebrations and exchanging gifts and all the falderal that goes with it. And the Puritans said, we can't be doing this anymore. We need to be more strict. We need to tell the people they cannot do anything with such frivolity. They regulated joy. Thanks be to God, after a while, the people said, I think I can still believe in God and have joy. In fact, when I read my Bible, I think that joy is part of the gift that God gives to God's people. And so things continued to evolve until we have the practices of today. But the gifts of Christmas are less about what we give to one another. Giving gifts because we love one another is a beautiful thing. Bringing in gifts for those in need is a wonderful part of what we do in the church. But the real gift of Christmas, as you all know, is Jesus. I was thinking about this, about what it means that Jesus is a gift. And then I started thinking about other gifts I've received that had meaning. They had meaning because of who gave it to me. God gives Jesus to us. They had meaning because of what they could do. Jesus is the Savior of the world. They had meaning because some of them were given at a particularly dark Christmas in the life of my family, and the gift gave a promise for a brighter day and helped me focus on the people who loved me rather than the situation at hand. It sounds cliche, Jesus is the reason for the season and all of that, until you begin to break it down. If we had not received the gift of Jesus, we would not have a model on how exactly are we supposed to love one another. We would not have had a model who said, actually, you feed the 5,000 people with the bread and fish. We would not have had a model that said, go and sin no more. We would not have had a model that said, you, without sin, cast the first stone. We would not have a model that said, I give my life for you. I will show you the way. And as we enter the season of winter, we never know when we are going to have a power outage. And if you have tried to live with a power outage for more than a couple hours, you know how aggravating it is at first when you turn on the bathroom light and it doesn't respond, and how intensely anxiety-producing it can get after a couple days when you're starting to wonder, should we go elsewhere and bring in water? This is what it feels like when the power goes out, when the light goes out. The reading that I began with from John ends with this. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And the gift is Jesus, who is the light of the world.